Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to Southern Latitudes. I'm Robin, and you're in my half-acre yard, suburban garden, and we have a little bit of a food forest. We have vegetable gardens. We have flowers, annuals, and perennials. And it's really hard. I thought we would tackle this topic because it's really hard to find balance. And how do we do that, especially in July and August and September? It's so incredibly hot right now. You can't be out here 10 minutes without sweat just pouring off your face. And some of you may not have pools. Some of you, hopefully you have air conditioning, but it can be just a difficult time to be a gardener in Florida. And it makes a lot of the new gardeners, and there's plenty of you, but it makes many people just want to throw in the towel and just give up gardening because it's just too hot in Florida. And how can you, maybe you started things in the wrong season anyhow, and they're already dying off early and you don't understand why. And I get that. I was a new gardener here 20 years ago as well, and I was trying to fight the seasons, and I was fighting the wrong seeds. I don't know. I tried to grow hollyhocks, right? That's not really here. I was able to do it in Jacksonville, Florida, but I was not able to do it here. And in Central Florida, we are subtropical. We're just like right on that line of, we're not really South Florida, just perfect overwintering, because, we have that slight chance of frost, and many of you do, if you're inland, do have frost. But anyhow, in summer, what are you going to do? Because it's also too hot. And I want to give you some tips and tricks and just some things to think about for these next 3 months, and how are we going to survive it and still be gardeners and keep our gardens in check. And there are many wonderful things that still happen in these months, so you got to keep your eye out for them. For example, this is a pumpkin spice jalapeno pepper. Just absolutely beautiful. If you were with me through the other video a day or two ago, you saw that we discovered muscadines on the vine. So beautiful, so wonderful. So we have that crop to look forward to in here. We used to have citrus here, but it was not happy at all. Way too much shade in this area. So as we were going through what kind of permaculture could we put in our yard, we decided to put the bananas in here. We just wanted to try a taller variety. We have the dwarf Cavendish, and we have the Grand Nain, which is wonderful. Both of them make great bananas, taste very similar, but we wanted to kind of move out of our comfort zone and try something else. And of course, the name ice cream banana sounded pretty cool, so why not try that? Well, we found one again at our favorite little fruit tree store, Ace Hardware in Titusville, and we brought it home with us. And then we also got extra one from one of you subscribers, and thank you for that. And so we found this wonderful surprise in it this weekend. There you go. That is the flower for the ice cream banana, sometimes also called blue java. And as the flower comes out and the rack comes out, I'll show you the bananas will have a blue hue to them, and that's where they get the name blue java from. And so I'm very fortunate to have this very active corm. And as the corm itself, that's the base, gets larger and larger, the banana trees will actually start outgrowing one another. Like this pup of it should actually outgrow this first parent. This is its first rack ever out of this corm right here underneath the ground. Do you get that, what I'm saying? And then this is a new corm over here, completely unrelated to this group. And so this one, I hope, maybe next year in 2024, we'll see a rack of bananas out of that. But there's always something so exciting in the yard, even in summer around here. And we still have apples growing, we have mulberries coming out, and so forth. So let's sit down and have a little talk about how we're going to survive gardening. How are we going to keep the weeds down? How are we going to plant things, get things seeded. Don't forget, we have to have an onion party on October 19th. I hope you have your seeds ready for that. And we'll talk about that too at the end of this video. Well, even with some windows open, I'm still roasting in here. But let's go ahead and go through my several ideas, handful of ideas to help you get through the next 3 months in this awful, awful heat and humidity. And so anyhow, like I said, I preach all the time, you have to be intentional with your rest. Okay, we're not from the 17 and 1800s where we're used to being outside every day and used to never having air conditioning. Our bodies aren't conditioned to be working, every waking moment of the day, building a log cabin or, working oxen. That's not America right now, or most of the world, right now. Some of the world, yes, their bodies are already conditioned for it, but we are not. I am definitely not. So how am I going to get through this summer? Well, first of all, I don't know about your nights, but my nights can be anywhere from about 75 degrees to 78 degrees. Occasionally, towards the end of August, will be 79, pushing 80 degrees. So, you can always throw on a headlamp at night, or the coolest part is actually very first thing in the morning, just as sun is rising. So if you're an early riser, go for it. That's your time between 6 and 7, 7 and 8 a.m. By 8 a.m., the sun is, it's hot. It's a few degrees off of temperature, the high of the day. So to me, it feels like it, and the humidity is usually pretty bad, and the crickets are loud. I can hear them out there right now. We're going to have crickets in our videos for the next 3 months. Definitely, you guys can turn off your irrigation right now. We're in the rainy season in Florida, and so most likely, unless we get like a week of dry, say a high pressure sits right on Florida, then turn your irrigation back on, because it only takes like 1 day of those super high 90-degree days for even peppers, even shade cloth things, flowers, all that will be wilted in 24 hours. So you can turn it off most days, maybe even, get away with rain every other day. But you definitely, some things do need water every single day during the summer, these summer months. You don't want to be breaking new ground and establishing new beds during these 3 months. That should be a no-brainer, but a lot of people go, let's go ahead and set up a raised garden. And if you have to do that and you have to build a raised bed, do it in the shade, do it in your garage with a bunch of fans on you, something like that. But you definitely don't want to be doing it out, anything in the full sun. I guess maybe that's my biggest point, is you don't want to do anything with full sun on you, because you'll just give out and sweat and heat stroke and whatever. So clouds are going to be your friend. So let's talk about that next. Work with the weather. Okay, we already talked about weeding and whatever you have to do in the wee hours of the morning or sometimes in the evening. But along with our summer thunderstorms come clouds. So if you say need to go out there and harvest stuff, if you need, well, harvesting should be done early in the morning, but say you need to go pull weeds, throw a tarp down, whatever your task is, do it as the clouds are coming in. Sometimes, I'll start a job, but it's just too hot, and I go in, eat breakfast, I sit down on the couch, cool down, get my blood pressure back down, and then I know clouds are building. And so I'll wait for a nice big dark cloud. Maybe it takes 5 minutes to go over, but that'd be enough time for me to accomplish and tidy up and wrap up whatever project I had from that morning. And then, of course, wind. So wind is always coming in right before a storm, and that can be lovely to work to wind. And it can be like after a storm passes, you can get out, as long as it's safe, no lightning, right? We don't want limbs falling on you or anything. But, you can take advantage of that little bit of a coolness after a thunderstorm line moves through. Drink plenty of water, rest during the afternoon, get in the pool, whatever you got to. We're so fortunate. We can definitely enjoy our pool time for several months in the year. do that. You can still garden and still enjoy yourself, or go to the beach or something, you know. I'm not saying, I know that a lot of you do not garden and have a hobby full-time like I do doing this. I'm fortunate. I was a homeschool mom for 17 years, and my boys have now grown up and don't need me. And I was about to rejoin the workforce in 2020 when the pandemic hit. And then, you know, it just didn't happen because the world shut down. And then we got our ducks in a row, and we decided, okay, maybe I will just stay home and just make this my job. And it's a fun job, and it is something that is appreciated by my husband and my family. We all enjoy fresh organic food. But anyhow, enough of that. So this is my full-time hobby, and I enjoy it, but I totally recognize that some of you have other jobs outside the house, and so, you know, you're only able to garden on Saturday or on Sundays maybe. And so, you know, or in the evening after your jobs, and things get away from you, or finances are tight, and I get that. So, you know, if you have to just spend your evening cutting the grass, or if you just have to spend your evening with just taking the dog for a potty, you're tired and you want to go in and veg out on whatever series, do that. Enjoy your walks through the garden. It will become a jungle, but you know what? Grass slows down by October. So do the rains and the humidity and the heat. You can always tackle it then. It's a great time to preserve your things like peppers, your eggplants, your pumpkins, your squash. Maybe you like Malabar spinach, your amaranth, your flowers, you know, make a nice vase for in the house. See, I'm really sweating already. It's awfully hot in here, even though the wind's going. But, you know, it's a great time. Put your dehydrator out on your porch. I know that seems counterintuitive because you're drying, but yet the humidity's in the 80s and 90s. But you can get things dried. It might just take a little bit longer, but you can get things dried and preserved. You can work on those things. Maybe you got a freezer full of tomatoes like I had last week, and, you know, work on your garden and your permaculture, your home, I don't know, your homesteading lifestyle that way, by being in the house, preserving everything that you grew all winter. You know, if you got seeds sitting around, go ahead and harvest those. I finally did all my mustard seeds and got rid of them a couple days ago. That was good. A much needed task, and I was able to do it in the shade of the boat barn. Okay, now covering is expensive. That ground cover, it's breathable, water goes through it and everything. But last time I looked, it was about $110 a roll, and I am sure, because it's been 2-3 years since I bought some, I'm sure inflation has wreaked havoc on that. It's probably $140, $150 now a roll. So if that's not in your budget, you know, cover with black plastic. Go buy a tarp for $25 at Home Depot. Do something to cover your gardens if you don't have anything in them. If you are able, you know, cover crop. We talked about that a couple months ago in another video about what I was going to cover crop with. And a lot of you gave me good feedback and suggestions, some of which I've already done in years past, but I just absolutely, I wanted and needed a break. I had really good health this year, and so I worked much harder through the spring than I did the year before. And I was just done. I don't recommend the you know, like the opaque colored visqueen. If you can get black plastic, that is absolutely the best, because weeds coming through can still get photosynthesis through the opaque colored covers. I'm so distracted by, I hear something behind me. Speaking of which, something behind me, I actually hatched out a butterfly in the shed unintentionally. It was on one of these dried sunflowers that I harvested, and I put in here to continue drying so it wouldn't get rain on it. And yeah, last week I ended up opening the door and there's a butterfly flying around in here. Oh, that's funny. So anyhow, get things covered. That's another thing I'm going to do. I actually am ready to now lay down my black fabric over in Salsa Garden. I got all the drip lines pulled, and the biggest of the weeds pulled. Not everything, but the black plastic will kill off everything else. And it's very helpful. Just, 6 weeks, 8 weeks until I can get my mushroom compost in here and then get seedlings into the garden. That's how I'm gonna roll this year. Oh, I think what I wanted to also say was, a lot of you recommended, back a couple months ago, I did a thing like, what was I gonna cover my gardens with? And I'm actually taking a break. I've done all the black-eyed peas, I've done the limas, I've done the Malabar spinach, I've done the amaranth, I've done all that, and I don't really need that this year, so I'm taking the year off and giving myself permission to not have to grow that stuff this year, and just cover and rest and allow the ground to rest. That's important too, right? I don't want to always be taking away minerals. Now, some of those cover crops put nitrogen back into the ground, and I get that. And you can mow them and you can till them under, and that's great. I just didn't want to go through that kind of energy in August. I had a great spring. I put a lot of energy into my spring because I was feeling so much healthier, and I'm giving myself permission to rest this summer, because we're going to, I have ordered so many seeds. We'll make that another video, but I have ordered a lot of seeds, and we're going to go bonkers with flowers as well, because as much as I loved going to Rockledge Gardens, it was very expensive cost for the amount of flower that I got. I enjoy the annuals. Annuals are cheaper, but you can really grow stuff for the same dollars that I spent at Rockledge Gardens. I could have bought tons and tons of flower seed. I didn't. I for a fraction of that cost, I bought several packets, and we're going to grow our annuals and perennial flowers from seed this year, so we can cut back on those expenses, and then I can just put the money towards compost. A lot of these gardens need re-amending for the fall. Don't forget to reach out to your community for help and your family for help. Say you're, elderly or injured, or again, you only have 1 day a week to work. Feel free to recruit somebody. There's a lot of teenagers need gas money. There's a lot of parents that would like their teenagers work and not be gaming. There's a lot of special needs people out there who would love to feel needed and like they're part of something bigger, and that's great too. There's always a friend that wants to glean off of your knowledge and work the garden with you and try to understand, oh, we plant this. Oh, I didn't know we could grow that in Florida. I didn't, I've never seen that. Oh, I've only seen it in a grocery store. Build your community of gardening friends or your family. You may discover you have a child that actually has the same genetic things that you are, the same genetic affinity for gardening, and that would be great. Maybe they love chickens, something like that. For me, okay, I never had chickens growing up, but I did go to agricultural college, and I went for livestock and stuff. I'm an animal science major with a minor in forages and forestry, things like that. But to be honest with you, they sent us to things like golf course turf management, and which really wasn't my thing. It's okay, I learned from it. But hays and grasses. And then I worked for USDA for a handful of years, and then somewhere else later. But I never could stop. I would look at those poultry barns, not that I wanted to do meat chickens, but I was always like, why in livestock classes they never taught us anything about poultry? It was like it's a whole different major. And I always wanted chickens, and I begged Jack for years, and of course we did the 4-H embryo thing, and we did hatching with the incubators, but then you got to give up your chickens because it wasn't legal where I am like it is now. And but as soon as we went legal, I was all over the internet looking for chickens. chicks and stuff. So who knew I had an affinity for poultry and chickens? I love it. And, you know, I don't know that my boys will do that, but I definitely see that affinity in my grandchild. And some of you have older grandchildren. Get them involved in your gardening. I know I rambled quite a bit, but I really thought it was important to actually put this out for people who are new. Florida's has took a lot of transplants, and people coming from the temperate climates and the cold climates, and just even if, say you came from Arizona or Southern California, or somewhere where it was warm enough where you were a zone 9, but your zone 9 out west is nothing like zone 9 here in Central Florida. Well, you know, it's important to put these things down because they might go ahead and jar a thought and inspire you to do something differently and better and more efficiently. Also, while we're camping on this, maybe you're new to hurricanes, and I have a video for you that I'm going to put right here at the end of this video, and you go to it and you watch that and how to prepare for hurricanes, because let's face it, one could pop up any minute. And I want your chickens and animals and you know, livestock. I want your fruit trees. I want your gardens to all be ready and prepared for when high winds come and, you know, torrential rains. And that might be good, and have some ideas for you in those videos too. It seems like that video is probably about 3 years old, and I pop it out every year onto the different Facebook community groups to help people know how to prepare their yards for hurricanes. Now, yeah, I mean, you think it would be obvious, banana trees, okay, probably don't do anything, right? I figured that when I was new. But then I was like, I've really invested a lot of money into the stone fruit and into, you know, say a guava, or, you know, even people wonder about pineapples, you know. All of that is in this video. And your plumeria, we have things staked all over the yard. The Barbados cherry has shallow roots. Those are things you need to know, and they're in one video for you. So you guys, thank you for watching. I hope you found something really good in it, and let me know in the comments if you were inspired by something. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied, and I'm also sweating. So you guys take care. God bless. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.